Book Fest. I am Julian Winters, young adult author of Running with Lions, How to Be Remy Cameron, and The Summer of Everything. And welcome to this amazing panel. I'm a wee bit nervous because I am talking to some of not only my inspirations, but my favorite writers today for the Capturing the Moment, What It Means to Write Black Stories Right Now panel. Uh, just going to go through quick little introductions. We have, if you don't already know, Angie Thomas, author of The Hate You Give, On the Come Up, Find Your Voice, and the forthcoming Concrete Rose. We have Tiffany D Jackson, author of Allegedly, Monday's Not Coming, Let Me Hear a Rhyme, and the forthcoming Grown. Got Bethany C Morrow, author of the adult sci-fi novel Mem, editor of the Take the Mic anthology, and just recently released, and if you don't have it yet, we have to have some words, A Song Below Water. And then we have LL McKinney, author of the Nightmare Verse series, which includes A Blade So Black, A Dream So Dark, A Crown So Cursed, which comes out next year, so y'all make sure y'all pre-order that one right there. And she is also, and I'm not even like trying to hype this up, but like as a huge comic book geek, I am so happy that she is the author of the graphic novel Nubia, coming out soon as well. Thank you all for being here. I am super stoked to be talking to such influential, powerful, amazing authors today. Let's just jump right in because I feel like I could just sit here and let y'all talk all day. I don't have anything great to add to the conversation. I know that all y'all gonna have because I'm not y'all. So let's just talk about it with the way the world is right now, and it's not even just like on a national level, it's on like an entire global level right now. How is it for y'all writing right now? Like, what is it like for you to be? I know most of y'all are probably on deadline because y'all some of the busiest people in the young adult industry, but like, what is it like for you right now to sit down at your laptop, sit down at your tablet, and try to create stories knowing everything that's going on right now? You can't turn on TV, you can't click on social media, you can't walk your dog, you can't go to the grocery store without feeling some impact of not just what we're doing with the coronavirus, but obviously what's happening with George Floyd, and Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, all those things are happening right now. How do you sit down and write? Like, how do you do it? Because I can't.
I'll go, because I can't either. I'm just gonna be honest. Like,
listen, I love the solidarity.
I'm trying. Like right now, I can edit. Editing is the easier. Anything that has to be drafted, if it's not making me laugh, it's like pulling teeth. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, people have pushed back deadlines because they're like, "Listen, the world is on fire. We get it." But at some point, I'm gonna have to draft. I want y'all to answer too, because give me some tips and pointers, because I'm just editing right now. I ain't drafting, not a thing.
I had so thankfully the follow-up to A Song Below Water was, that's been done, but I am part of the Reclaim Classics series, and I was drafting in March. I had actually set aside, because of how I know I draft and how usually I draft in 6 to 8 weeks, I had just set aside like, okay, I'm gonna do this in February and March. It's not due till like May 15th. That's perfectly fine. I was supposed to be like traveling all of April anyway. So I'm like, that's going to be plenty of time. And then of course, everything kicked off. And I wrote in February, I wrote like 25,000 words, and I thought that was like the downtrend. And I was like, ooh, we're going to have to do better than that, baby. Like this, that is not going to cut it. And then March was like, hold my beer. And I wrote 4,000 words. And I was like, oh, okay. So this is literally a situation where like, I'm sitting down and I'm like, too much of my brain is being designated to like reminding myself that this is all really happening. And so like my bandwidth for actually writing, and this should have been it was supposed to be like a fun drafting, you know. The thing is, obviously, anytime you're doing a remix that involves Black people, so I'm doing Little Women, and I'm still setting it in 1863. And one of the problems is I'm always going to be trying to talk about history that somebody didn't teach us. So some of the problem with doing something that is set in 1863 while everything that's happening right now happens, it don't seem far enough away. And that got real depressing real fast. Like, this is supposed to be historical fiction. Why is this so relevant? Why is this so troubling? That did not sit well with my soul, and March was just a wash. So I don't know how it actually got finished, but I definitely got an extension. Thankfully, I turned it in before the A Song Below Water came out, but I really couldn't tell you. It was literally just, this has to get done. So this is going to be the worst part of my day every single day. But I mean, you got to do it.
Yeah, people always ask me this question, like, how do you work through, like, writer's block and stuff like that? And I'm always like, yeah, I'm a single Black woman living in Brooklyn. Like, I have bills to pay. Like, yeah, I'm still going to be writing at the end of the day. But this time around, I actually had a very interesting, somewhat predicament in a sense. So I was finishing up the final round of drafts for the Malcolm X novel I'm writing with his daughter Ilyasa Shabazz. And it literally was due 2 days after Memorial Day. And it was literally the same day that protests really kind of like kicked off in New York. And I particularly am in Brooklyn in a very central location. So it was just like all around me, basically. Like even the first couple of like cop cars that were bombed were like, down the block. And so the whole time I was like, okay, well, let me move my car. Oh, wait, I have to finish this draft. Okay, wait, let me come back over here. Then I had to get on this Zoom call. I'm like, can you hear the helicopters? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll just press mute. Like, it was just constantly like this, like, I was just ripping and running to the point that everyone kept asking, like, do you want to, like, my parents kept asking, do you want to come home? And I was like, no, I need to be here. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And, I feel like I need to be on my block, basically, and protecting my people, because a lot of the protests and a lot of things that were happening weren't people from Brooklyn. A lot of the looting and the violence weren't people from Brooklyn. In fact, the 2 girls who tried to bomb something that was in front of the Brooklyn Museum, they were from the Catskills. That was like 2.5 hours away. You came 2.5 hours away. This caused like stupidness. And then like, people trying to break into the Brooklyn Museum. I kept saying like, what are you going to steal, mommy? Where were you going to sell that? So I feel like there was just so much happening around me. And I kept moving my car to be like, I just want to make sure we're okay. Because particularly the area I'm in also has had riots in the past. New York has had plenty of riots in the past. So I think in my mind, I just was like, let me get this done, but also dealing with, such a civil rights icon's daughter who was also feeling it just as much. The fact that she was feeling it just as much, I was like, I can't believe that she's still feeling it this strongly this way. And I'm sitting here like numb and just wanting to get like this draft done, like wanting to just like get this out the door. And she is feeling for victims and feeling for protesters and stuff like that. And I just felt somewhat like embarrassed of my numbness. And I think at the end, I realized that this is very much my trauma response. Like I just sort of like move into action without even feeling it. So when everything was done in this last week, I finally like took off and was like, okay, I'll get to the next book maybe around July, but right now I just need a moment. I just need a moment of peace, because I spent the last 2 months in prison with Malcolm X, and now we have things going on in this country that is basically mimicking everything that I just like lived through. And I just was like, I just need a moment.
Yeah, I got it. Honestly, hearing that everybody else needed extensions and stuff is kind of a relief, because I'm like, oh, it's not just me, because like I think as writers we get kind of almost ashamed to admit stuff like that. Like, oh, I had to get an extension on the deadline. Oh, I'm behind deadline. There's nothing to be ashamed about with that. So like, I'm working on the revisions for Concrete Rose, and part of me is like, yay, I get to work on a book in the 90s where none of this is happening, but it was happening then too. It just wasn't caught on tape. But I like this past weekend, my revisions were due on Monday. And I was like, I'm going to work on it Saturday. Then I was like, oh, nope, there's a protest happening in Jackson Saturday. So I texted my editor and I was like, I'm going to protest Monday. I mean Saturday. I don't know if this book going to be ready Monday. She's like, it's fine. So, but I'm learning to be kind to myself. And I think that's not just something creatives have to remember, but all of us have to remember during this. Be kind to ourselves. Yes, be active and find things to do and make ourselves heard, all of that. But one of our biggest forms of resistance is self-care, because the people before us, I think about Dr. King a lot, and I think about how his autopsy revealed, and this is grim, but his autopsy revealed that in his 30s, he had the heart of someone twice his age because of stress. We have to take care of ourselves and have to remember that this is a marathon and not a sprint. So I'm finding ways to care for myself and be kind to myself. If nothing else, I'm not going to go get a manicure, pedicure, because Corona is no joke. My toes can look jacked up for a while. As long as Corona out there, I'm good. But look, my toes will be all right. But I can unplug for a little bit. I can light a candle and listen to some music for a little bit. I can watch a movie for a little bit. I can find something to take care of myself. And if it's writing, if writing is where I get my mojo back, if writing is what helps me, then I will write. But being kind to myself is key right now. So I hope that y'all remember that too. Like, whether you wrote 1 word or 1,000 words today, be nice. Be nice about it. We're dealing with a lot.
And that, you nailed it where I was going to go to next. I was going to ask, because right now is not like any other time that we've gone through this, and whether people would choose to recognize it or not, this has been an ongoing thing for a long time. This is not the first time this has happened, and I mean, as Black people, we know it's not the last time it's going to happen, but it's never been at a point where we can see our trauma in every aspect. And we just see it unfolding all the time. Before it was, oh, it's what you learned in the history books. Oh, it's, whatever this movie came out, in this year. So you saw it then. Even in the back of the days with, Trayvon Martin and whatnot, we didn't have as much focus on what was happening. You might have saw a post on Facebook, or you might have saw something on Tumblr, or, but now you see it everywhere, and you see the actual video footage. So as Black writers dealing with this and knowing that you can't just hop on Instagram and be like, oh, let me go see, what's trendy and what's going on here. Let me go look at somebody's dog. What are you all doing for self-care? Because I think there are a lot of other Black writers, myself included, who are scared to unplug, are scared to look away for fear that we're doing some kind of injustice to our community. You carry that weight that if I disappear for not even just a day, if I disappear for an hour from this, then am I ignoring what's happening? But you're not. You're taking care of yourself. So what are, Angie's already said what she's doing, but what are the rest of you doing for self-care to ensure that, you can keep on in the marathon?
I turn to a lot of the things that I do also while writing, so I can continue to engage in storytelling in some manner. Right now, I'm not gonna lie, Animal Crossing is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It just is, because it's low stakes, and I get to go outside in the game and be out amongst the flowers, and handing hippos presents. Just little ridiculous things.
Listen.
Just little things.
Listen.
And it's so nice to get frustrated about something not important, because that gives that part of my brain something else to focus on as well. And I make sure that I keep in contact with people that I care about. The family chat is more active now than it's ever been, just because that's how we're talking to each other. Because, like I said, Rona's out there, and I'm not. As long as she's out there, I'm in here. That's how that works. So I'm playing video games. I'm reading books. I'm reading books that are like, the adventures and the love stories. I'm focusing in things like that, because what's going on, like you said, has been going on for forever. And it just seems to be hyper focused, and the world seems to just now be catching on to what we've known for forever. So you feel guilty about it, and I think that doesn't necessarily go away. It lessens the more you make this a habit. You know, it took me setting a timer on my phone, a reminder, get off, go do something else for 2 hours. And then I would have to, like, if I needed to, unplug my internet so that I can't, get a message and go read that article or whatever, or turning my phone on do not disturb, letting people know, hey, I'm going dark for a couple hours. I'll be back then. So I'm just doing normal, everyday things that help me maintain an engagement with storytelling, but also things that I just like, I would be doing regardless. I would still be playing video games, so. Animal Crossing and reading love stories right now. That's my form of self-care.
I am going to be honest, I can't really read. I've read one book since the pandemic started. And I'll keep getting the urge. And I've got a Tiffany book directly next to my bed. I've got a Latrice book directly next to my bed. I just got The City We Became. I'm still just as excited about book mail, knowing I ain't gonna read it. I'm just as excited to get it. I'm like, yes, I got it. And then I put it next to my bed, and then I turn Bob's Burgers back on.
Yes.
And I really don't want to get upset right now. So let's just see how this goes. It makes me think of when I was younger, and my dad is a 75-year-old Black man from Harvey, Illinois. So he integrated a high school. He's 10 years older than Ruby Bridges. Okay, so I remember when I was a kid, there would be a time, multiple times, that there would be a song playing for just a smooth 2 weeks. And we would all be like, who, Jesus, Daddy is on this song, or like he is on this movie, or he's on this show or something. And I just remember making fun of that. And then here comes me at 37, realizing I do not have the emotional bandwidth for stuff I don't know. I do not have it. I am watching episodes of a show that I have seen a million times because it's the only way I can relax. If you try to input new information into my brain, very, very few and far between. So I just watched, and I don't do zombies until Colson Whitehead did Zone 1, but I just watched finally, because I was like, okay, maybe seeing blood right now ain't gonna upset me too much. We won't say why, but I just watched The Girl with All the Gifts. So that's like the movie that oh Lord, is that good? I really want to talk about, for storytelling reasons, why that issue is so good at some point. We got to break that down because that succeeds. Ooh. Anyway, but that's one of the things that I've been able to watch that I hadn't already seen. For the most part, I've really got to stick to stuff I know that I've already consumed before, so that I'm not asking my brain and my spirit to do any new work. So I am, in my heart now, have I called my dad and apologized for making fun of him? I feel like he's a big enough person that I shouldn't need to do that. Like, he should just, I am, I'm like, I'm sorry for all the times I did not understand why you got in these loops. But man, I get it. I get it now. But otherwise, yes, I am on Twitter and pretty constantly, but when people will just send me stuff like, look at this, I just won't open it. If I don't feel like opening it, I'm not opening it. And I got my girls on Slack and everything, and we talk about stuff, and that's pretty much the most that I interact with it, because I already know that this is a safe place, that we are probably all going to be able to express a pretty similar thing together, and there's some sort of community in it. But otherwise, I'm like, don't send me every outrageous thing you see, please, because I'm just not gonna click it. Yeah, that's what and realizing, I think when we talk about the guilt that we feel, realizing all of the different assaults, all the fronts that we're fighting white supremacy on, one of which is convincing us that we got to ingest trauma after trauma after trauma to be aware, or to be, and you're like, that's not what it really is, you guys. Looking at these bodies, looking at these Black bodies broken, watching the life go out of somebody, they used to sell that for entertainment. So don't believe the hype now. Suddenly something that y'all literally sold lynching postcards for entertainment, I'm supposed to now ingest over and over, second, third wave of terrorism, and you're going to tell me that it's because it's my way of staying involved? Absolutely not. You can't just change the purpose, and I'm gonna get on board with that. So it's like we have to reteach ourselves a new narrative to get out of those habits and to understand that is a whole new wave of terror, to just keep ingesting and ingesting and ingesting. That's that whole like white supremacist discourse is the most important, is the most powerful. No, it isn't. Everything everybody got to say ain't important. And for Black people right now, you choose, it's uniquely Black people, you decide what is important for you to know and to see, because baby, we don't have enough power to change every awful thing we see. So what, I'm just eating it for nothing just to get sick? Like, I'm not doing it.
Tiffany, talk to me.
Well, so I got a puppy, and he's been a very welcome distraction. Quite frankly, he's not exactly a stress-free distraction, because he definitely stresses me out sometimes. He definitely is like, has completely like, is in charge all of a sudden. I'm like, how did this happen? So we're in the process of training him to go outside to the bathroom. And he's overwhelmed too, because he goes outside and he hears chanting and helicopters. He's like, what the? So he's determined to come back inside. He's an introvert like me. So he's like, we're inside. He's definitely my child. But it's been nice to sort of like, when I feel like I'm on Twitter too much, I kind of like stop down, look at him, and I get to like just sit on the floor and play. And we're like playing with a ball or playing stuff. And then like, he gets very frustrated by things because he's still very like a floppy puppy. So it's very relieving in that way. But otherwise, we've been trying to, or I've been trying to watch just things that don't have to do with anything. So I definitely just watched The Girl with All the Gifts on Monday. And I was like, I'm a huge horror fan. So that was just like right up my alley. I also watched this movie called Fast Colors, which was just gorgeous. And I'm just like, but then I started to get mad at the fact that this movie didn't get enough marketing dollars. And so I was just like, no, turn the channel. And then like I was watching and Creed 2. And there's like this big, like I'm a huge horror fan, but for some reason, I can't take like my baby Michael B. Jordan getting like beat up like that. So like it was just like the whole time like I was holding a pillow like, oh no, and it's just like the whole time because that's my boo. But anyway, those are kind of like the things I've been just sort of like trying to master, just the master of distraction and not ingesting, like Bethany was saying, the repeated trauma, but also, and something I sort of learned throughout like studying Malcolm X's life is, his awakening to who he is or who he was didn't come from watching like bodies being hung and stuff like that. It came through research. It came through knowledge. It came through opening his mind to other ways of being and learning about his true self. So for me, when I say to kids, is to sort of like, kind of like, get your facts straight, like have the receipts. Like it doesn't mean to be about like, the trauma that we keep on like repeating, or news actually keeps on repeating, because it's not something that we intentionally try to do. And I think that's very interesting, the idea that, we're in a different society. Back during the civil rights movement, we needed to see that trauma because people didn't believe it was actually happening. And now we're aware of it. And the same people that we needed to see it to move those bills, like had a different type of morality and humility that's different than what we're dealing with today. And there's been documentaries done about that, as far as like, you know, what is the impact of actually seeing, you know, bodies on the screen. And like today, it's not having the same impact it was having back when like people barely had televisions and they were all like in black and white. And so it's not really like hitting the way we needed to. So we need to hit we need to have a different strategy. And so that's a kind of like a part of, you know, the ideas of, and even just generally speaking, just this book festival, just having a different strategy in terms of how we reach our readers, how we reach our communities, and how we get them to mobilize and move and basically wake up. I hate to say woke. I felt like I was going there, but I feel like there's another word. I feel like wakened. Yeah.
Because woke is past tense, as if you were already there, and they're not there. They're definitely not there, okay? Despite what you think, you're not there, okay?
Right.
A lot of focus right now is, as is always the case when talking about our community and the things that we go through, there's a lot of focus right now on, and Nick said it best, Nick Stone said it best in the interview she did with Entertainment Weekly, where she was talking about how her bestseller, Dear Martin, is her bestseller because so many people are invested in seeing Black people killed or us going through trauma and pain. And Angie, I know you deal with this with The Hate U Give, where that like so much focus is put there. But Juneteenth is not about that. We're about joy. We're about finding happiness, and that's what I want people to get more of, is that our stories are not just that's not what we're here for. We're not here just to write that one narrative. And with all of you, I don't think, you know, that's the case, you know, and you have On the Come Up and Tiffany, my goodness, I mean, we can go on for hours about, you know, all the different things that you explore and whatnot, but, you know, that's not where you go. You have the Nightmare Verse series, which is like if you took a Black Buffy and sent her down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland, you know. Bethany, you have a Song Below Water. Like, all these stories are not focusing in on our pain and our suffering. That we obviously, as Black people, we can't wake up and say, oh, I don't want to deal with racism today. We don't get that option. You know, we don't get to go outside and say, oh no, I don't feel like not being hated for who I am. But what's it like for you right now writing? Are you finding those moments where you get to capture that, you know, that Black love, that Black joy, that Black celebration, that, you know, only if you are a Black reader, you understand what I'm talking about right now, you know, and the things that I'm feeling right now. Can you feel it through those words? No, because you haven't had that joy, that resistance, that ability to overcome these situations. So are each of you finding that in the stories you're writing, without spoiling, you know, any of your future plans? Because I know, you know how publishing works, but without spoiling anything that you have set in the future that hasn't been announced, can you talk about, you know, taking that opportunity right now in this moment to write about those things and celebrating who we are?
I want to say really quickly, like, everybody's books that you've mentioned, even the ones that deal with really hard stuff, what I want non-Black people to understand, there's joy in those books too. Just because you've decided to focus on something, and that's the thing that happens, is we tell a complete story,
Yes.
and then the audience, a lot of times the society zeroes in on something and is like, well, this is what The Hate U Give is about exclusively. And it's like, well, okay, but I saw Black love, I saw family, I saw having fun, I saw being obsessed with your kicks and having, like, I mean, I saw other stuff, and that's what I'm saying, like, we're allowing other people to sort of talk about our work and sort of determine what our work is about. And one of the best things that has happened with A Song Below Water is the people who are tweeting and leaving comments that are like, I just started this book, Black readers who are like, I just started this book and this is the Blackest book. And I'm like, look, because if you know, you know. If you see it, you see it. When you see these two sisters, you know what I mean? Like, somebody else can see, okay, there's some point in the book where they go to a protest. There's some point in the book where this happens. So this is a protest book. That's
Right.
you reducing our whole existence. We didn't do that. We don't do that. So I take exception even with the books that have become internationally known for that. I take exception with that because that's somebody else saying that to us. And that's not all I got from those books. That's all.
I definitely I want to piggyback on that because recently, there's been such an influx of everyone bigging up all of our books and stuff and making lists and Instagram posts. And I am truly super grateful. But I've been thrown off by seeing my book, Let Me Hear a Rhyme, which is a 90s hip hop historical fiction. I've been thrown off by people throwing it into the police brutality category. And at first I was kind of like, where did you get that? And there's literally one scene in the entire book where there's a stop and frisk situation happening. And that is something that was happening during the 90s. And at first I was kind of thinking to myself, man, it's so ingrained in my New York existence that I didn't even notice that police brutality was just happening all over the place because stop and frisk was such a huge thing here in New York. But then I was just kind of well, wait a second, but that's not there was so much other things happening in this book. That whole scene was all of maybe 2 pages, not even a page. And it wasn't enough for it to be classified as that. So as much as I want to correct people, I'm just sort of you know what, that's a part of my self-care is some people cannot learn right now. They are not in the space to learn. They need to learn kind of through a different type of practice, and I'm not in the space to actually also teach you that as well too. But what I love so much about Let Me Hear a Rhyme is it is very much a very Brooklyn book, a very hip hop book, and I love the fact that I was able to share my culture and also share basically my childhood with the masses, and you see it differently. You see kind of hip hop differently, and you can maybe have a better appreciation of where it came from. All this music that you're doing, all those TikTok dances to, yeah, that's actually a part of a culture. So now you are actually learning about my culture. And if you were sitting in your classroom learning about the Revolutionary War, why can't you learn about my culture, which is hip hop? So there's sort of if that is sort of my activism in ways that is speared through joy, I'd rather have it be that activism. Not saying I understand the fact that I am a thriller writer, so most of my books are in the darkish variety, but it's a different it's different basically, and it's hard to sort of explain that to people as well too. But I am immensely proud of Let Me Hear a Rhyme. I just wish that people wouldn't, as Bethany would say, reduce it to a police brutality book because of 2 pages in the book.
Right.
Yeah, I'm, as somebody who wrote a book that was so much about police brutality, it's refreshing. Thank you, Bethany, for saying that you saw the joy and the love and the sneakerheads, because for me, that was so important with The Hate U Give, to have Star surrounded with love from her family, to have her interests, to have her love and passion for basketball and all of these different things, because the thing about Black people is we multitask with our emotions. America has forced us to. And so I can feel, she can feel, just like I can feel right now, grief for the victims of police brutality, but I also can feel joy when I'm watching a funny video at the same time, but I'm still feeling that grief. And that's what I wanted to show with Star. She has all of these different emotions. It's not a one-dimensional thing. And then with books I'm working on now, with with On the Come Up, I wanted to put joy in there too. People are like, oh, it's a book about over policing in schools. No, it's about hip hop. It's about hip hop and how we use hip hop to make ourselves heard. And now, as I'm working on Concrete Rose, I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, it's about teen pregnancy." No, it's a story about a young man. But with writing that book has given me a lot of joy, because I wrote a scene the other week where Maverick's family has a Thanksgiving, and there's nothing quite like Thanksgiving with a big Black family. Mm-hmm. That's a whole, we could do a whole movie just on that. We could do a whole book on just one Thanksgiving with a Black family. I mean, just the joy that I got out of writing that. And then I'm working on my first middle grade novel, which will probably be my 5th book. And it's a fantasy book. I'm doing notes and world building and stuff. And I'm creating a world with just Black people. There are no other people in this world in this middle grade fantasy. It is a blackity black world. Like the schools are named after historic Black folks. You got like Harriet Tubman School, you know, Sojourner Truth, all these Black folks is blackity black. Like when, and for me, that's joy. That's revolutionary. Being able to craft a world where it's like everything is based on us. We're the default. Like, do you know how freeing that is? So I'm excited about that book. I'm plugging it already. But no, do you know how freeing that feels for me? And you know, I'm already like, somebody's gonna be like, that's not realistic. Where are the white people? It's fantasy. I can do whatever the HE double hockey sticks I want to do.
Yes.
And I enjoyed it.
Yes.
So
Many times as we've been raised from fantasy, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
I mean, y'all want to say, you know, oh, it wasn't possible for Black people to be in this world. Yes, it was. They just were lazy when they were writing it. So, look, if Tolkien didn't have Black people in his world, I'm going to have no white people in mine. You'll be all right, boo. So that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm getting my joy. So, yeah, it's just finding those moments where you can smile, the moments that give you that rejuvenation, because it's going to do the same for your readers. I never want Black girls or Black boys to read my books and feel weighed down. I never want them to feel like they got to carry the burden of whatever it is this book is dealing with. I want them to have those moments of joy, those moments of lightness, those moments of empowerment, because we're more than just our grief. We're way more than that.
I don't have anything to add. Like I don't have anything to add. I mean that's it. It's y'all reducing the stories to these points, and I haven't had it happen probably as often as it's happened, but I have, because of what happens in the beginning of the book. It's mentioned about, you know, a girl was killed by police in A Blade So Black, and that triggers some of the things that happens with the nightmares. But the book is an adventure book, urban fantasy. Like, we could talk about fear and we could talk about what I was doing with that, but that's not the overall focus of the story itself. Because it's one of those things where it's like, racism happens in our lives, but our lives are not wrapped around racism, y'all. You have to, like, with the idea that we can't get away from it doesn't mean that it's all encumbersome. Like, yes, it assaults us from all directions, but like y'all was saying, we have adapted to where we can throw up, you know, shields and stuff, and those shields are love and family and friends for 2.5 hours or a whole day during a Black Thanksgiving. We'll be protected from that, you know, because we over here roasting whoever brought the bad mashed potatoes or whoever brought the bad macaroni. Like that's what's going on.
No store-bought pie in here.
Listen, I got a whole thing in this one about how they won't let a certain aunt in the kitchen because she can't cook. Like, come on. I know how it is.
Like that's going to be the thing that's talked about. And I love how, I don't know, I haven't seen with anyone else to the level that I've seen with Black people, where we can turn something that's meant to be negative into something that's positive. Like, yeah, the roast has been going on, whatever, you had Dean whatever's roast, but don't nobody roast each other like Black people roast each other, and it's out of love. It's like the meaner it is, the more I love you, because I know you and I know I can do that. So that's kind of how we deal with this on the outside as well. It's like, whatever it is, I know we can take it and turn it around and make it into something, you know, celebratory. Should we have to do that all the time? Absolutely not. We shouldn't have to be as resilient as we are, but we are. So I don't have anything to add to, I'm just over here, as you probably saw, moving around and shifting around in my chair, because amen to all of that. Amen to every single bit of it.
Yeah, whew, felt something. Moving in my spirit. All right. So, Angie, I swear it's like you read my note cards. Can you see through this monitor or something? I don't know, because my next question was going to be, you know, since this is so much about Juneteenth and, you know, this freedom that we have to tell the stories we want to tell, and Angie already told us about, you know, your blackity black. middle grade fantasy, I want to ask Elle, Tiffany, Bethany, what is that thing? And I know if you're already working on, you can't tell us, but what is that thing, that story, that genre, that whatever yet that you haven't seen, or that you personally said, you know what, I'll be damned if y'all gonna have this all to yourself. I want it for me too. What's that story? Yes, Tiffany Gong, or what is that story you want to tell?
So because I've been in love with horror since I was 4 years old, I'm like entering the horror space now with my novels After Grown. Two actually very blacky black horror novels, one a haunted house and two a Carrie retelling. And I'm like, everyone's been like super excited about the Carrie retelling because I'm just like, yeah, this is basically what's happening right now. Like I've been literally in the midst of like, I've loved that story since I was 4. I've been watching that movie literally since I was 4. I didn't read the book till I was like 13. So like for me, like this is like, I'm ready to enter that space. So I'm also like cautious as well too, because you know, there's very few, I mean, there are Black horror writers, but they definitely don't get the shine that they're supposed to. And I want to enter that space knowing that I'm going to be loved as well too. Loved and you know, appreciated as well. So it's definitely I'm nervous, I'm also excited. And I'm also kind of like, you know, fuck it, like, you know, you can't have all this to yourself, you know, give me this, you know, all this like all this publishing paid me shit got me out, my heart's palpitating. I was like, I'm ready to rob people, so here we are, like
Hey, you ready to rob?
I mean, you know, I'm just saying.
I mean,
like,
let's roll. Let's roll. Who got the car? Let's go. Let's go.
This is very dead presence of us at this point. So like, we're here. I'm there.
Roll out. Roll out. I'll be by in 5 minutes, Tiff. Like, meet me out front.
I'll drive.
Let's go.
Like,
Bethany, Elle, what do you want? What are you hungry to put out there? Snatch some dollars from somebody. Come on.
Well, first of all, there's something that is actually, we have interest right now, so I can't talk about it, but I wish I could talk about it.
She gonna text us, y'all.
But I mean, I will tell y'all about it. But in the follow-up to A Song Below Water, something that I did, and I was not taking any of it out, there is a Black family reunion, and the very first note, should this last a week? Yes, it does. Yes, we will. Yes, we did. This is a week long. This is a week long Black family reunion, and well, how are we supposed to keep these names straight? You can learn a nickname. You can learn a nickname because ain't nobody calling Pookie by his government name. It's not gonna happen. If we're over here at the family reunion, you gonna get called what we call you, not what is on your birth certificate. And I was like, this is a Black family and it's a Black family reunion, and I had so much fun writing all of those parts. So I'm like, we was studying a lot.
Mine has already been announced as well, and I'm really excited about it. It's also middle grade. It's my Arthurian middle grade with my Black gamer girl, which is my love letter to Sailor Moon. And that's where I am. I'm like the magical girl stories, the 5-man band stories where you have the team, like the Power Rangers and stuff. Like that's what I really loved about the stuff that I watched growing up, like the team dynamics, the transformations, all that. And that's why I was so hyped when the actual, like the remake of the movie came out, and they were like, who's gonna watch this? I am. I will watch it 11 million times if I need to. So that's where I am, is in, like with Lord of the Rings, you have, well, there are 9 of them, but the group that goes off on the adventures that you see, like that's what I want. It's gonna be all Black people, all people of color. Like that's what it is, because like y'all said, we were left out. So you're gonna be all right with this one story not being in it. You're probably in it. You might be the bag. I'm just saying. You might be the villain. Because that's how it works. But anyway, yeah, give me my anime, my 5-man band, my Power Rangers, my adventure, my magic, that.
Yes, I am so excited about that. If you only knew how Sailor Moon was my go-to when I got home from high school, like I need to escape what I'm being put through here. And yeah, I feel you on that. I'm so excited about that. So excited about all of these stories being out there about us shattering all these walls and getting paid for it. Super excited about that. And just going to leave on that joyful note right there. I want to thank our wonderful, wonderful, amazing panelists, Angie Thomas, Tiffany D Jackson, Bethany C Morrow, and McKinney. Thank you so much for, I don't know, I feel like I'm ready to go right now. I feel much better. I feel much lighter. So thank you all for being on this amazing panel.
Thank you.
Yeah.